What can one say about Attack on Titan that has not been said by others that are maybe more sophisticated, smarter, or dumber than myself? Attack on Titan is a cultural phenomenon. Attack on Titan is the greatest anime of all time. Attack on Titan is one of the worst animes of all time. Attack on Titan is racist. Attack on Titan is a brand whore. Attack on Titan is one of my favorite mangas. That one is me. And I'm sure it's an opinion that's shared by many people. Now you know what you're thinking. Who the hell are you? My name is Satumi, and I like Attack on Titan, and I wanted to make this video to celebrate this anime finally ending, the incredible achievement Hajime Isayama has done, and my weird experience with this franchise. Now, I don't know everything there is to know about Attack on Titan. In fact, I might get some things wrong. This is where you guys can fill in the blanks and correct me in the comments, because I only have 3 days to do this. You have the entirety of YouTube's lifespan to make corrections. So why don't we start from the beginning? With a one-shot. Well, actually, technically this was released alongside Season 1 of the anime, the DVD, but it's important to go back to our roots, even though I've never read this. But in 2006, this one-shot was submitted to Weekly Shonen Magazine's editorial department magazine Grand Prix. And honestly, reading through it, it's pretty rough. Okay, it's pretty bad. It was definitely a first draft of the story, or at the very least, you could see some potential, and it kinda laid out the foundation. The art in general is very rough. I mean, this Titan is wearing high heels, which I'm assuming that's the blood of its enemies. But this page was pretty cool. Also, I am amused by the male Mikasa and female Eren dynamic. Also, Obese Titan is a hilarious name, and I'm sad that never made the actual manga. Reading this one-shot has made me realize that the editors Park Jung-hoon and Shintaro Kawakubo had their work cut out for them to help Isayama figure out his story. Fun fact, Park Jung-hoon was arrested for killing his wife. Anyways, let's talk about the actual manga. As much as I would like to pretend I was there for the original release on 2009, I was not. The way I got introduced to Attack on Titan's manga was definitely not in a conventional manner. For me personally, I grew up liking one particular genre, horror, but specifically slashers. I like seeing people die, but watching Jason Voorhees kill a bunch of nobodies got boring after the third movie. So this led me to seeking out death games, such as Survivor and Total Drama Island. Now obviously no one dies in those shows, but I like to pretend that they do.
It ups the stakes.
This led me to a rabbit hole where I discovered my favorite manga of all time, Battle Royale. And from then on, the easiest way into my heart was falling in love with characters and seeing them die. With that in mind, fast forward to 2010, and there was this popular anime that came out called High School of the Dead. Yes, that one. I read the manga hoping to see these girls die, but I became fascinated by the zombie genre. And then the illegal website algorithm recommended me Attack on Titan, which at the time was just zombies, but giant. And then I saw Eren's mom, his squad, and then him die, and I was hooked. But looking back at the early chapters, it is actually insane how much Isayama's art has improved over time. I mean, look at Shiganshina. It's so small and cute, and now look at it. It's grown so much. But seeing humanity's walls fall and Eren's mom die, it's still very tragic. Hannes' turmoil and admission of cowardice is the cherry on top that makes me tear up. And of course, the introduction to my wife, Sasha Blouse. Look at her, she's so cute. Also, did you know that the recruits training in episode 3 of the anime happens after the Trost arc in the manga? Maybe Isayama was afraid of getting cancelled, so he wanted to have volume 1 end with Eren's death, which was still a very bold move at the time. Also, do you think this is an Attack on Titan reference? This is also a story that can only be created in Japan, because Japan has an entire legacy of giant monsters destroying its own country. It makes sense that eventually an author would take Godzilla's influence and multiply it by 1,000. So I do have some kind of hipster pride with Attack on Titan being one of the few mangas where I was an early adopter. And then, on 2013, Wit Studios created the anime, and boy did it become an international hit. Honestly, I didn't see it coming, but it makes sense thinking about it. One, it's an anime that has broad appeal. It's violent and has no sex, so it appeals to Americans. And it came out around the time when the zombie genre was hitting its absolute highs with The Walking Dead. And as I said before, Titans are just zombies, but bigger. And I'm sure there are more reasons, but ultimately, it's an anime that had the perfect timing to min-max its popularity. Tetsuro Araki, who directed the anime of Attack on Titan, also directed the anime of High School of the Dead. See, these paths are all connected. The manga at the time of season 1 just had the ultimate twist of Reiner and Bertholdt being the armored and colossal titan, so anyone getting into the manga from the anime was met with amazing storytelling. And naturally, with the end of season 1, people were looking forward to season 2. But unfortunately, people had this misconception that Wit Studios was like Warner Brothers, where they can churn out seasons for a TV show yearly. I don't think the production committee expected this anime to be that popular and profitable. At the time, most seasonal animes didn't have a season 2, and there definitely wasn't enough content for a season 2. So we waited for 4 years. But in the meantime, people were still bullish, and the potential to grow a franchise was there. They just needed some kind of content. But this is also when Attack on Titan gets kind of weird, as they start releasing OVAs to keep public interest, and a spin-off anime which might as well be the filler arc for the show, but it was still pretty funny. But the biggest thing to come out of Attack on Titan's weird years was the live-action movies, which had the most important job of keeping the brand relevant and satiate the fans' hungers for the next season. Now, I'm not going to go in depth with the movies because of copyright. I watched part 1, and the only thing that stuck with me are that Titans have nipples, and Eren is canonically the only character to grab titties.
Don't you want to be a daddy?
Oh, I'm about the nut.
It turns out that most of the weird changes for the films were from Isayama himself. Now, this doesn't actually have a source, so who knows if Isayama is to blame. But honestly, a faithful retelling of Trost arc in live action could have been cool. Unfortunately, the movies did not keep the brand strong, but luckily the manga was still good. Well, actually, this was around the Uprising arc, or the Historia arc, or canonically the Royal Government arc. Basically, this was when Attack on Titan transitioned from an adrenaline-rushing survival show about fighting giant titans to a political drama. This arc split the fandom for a bit. There were some that really liked it for the writing and world building, and then there were those that hated it because it was boring. I will acknowledge that I didn't like it because of that. Alright, I know, I was young and reckless. You know my backstory, I just want to see people die. But reading it back again, I realized Attack on Titan's strengths isn't the violence, but the mystery and lore. So now I do like the arc, and it is a necessary tone shift to set up the rest of the story. But I will still admit that reading this monthly really sucked. Luckily, that didn't affect sales. In fact, the Uprising arc is probably when Attack on Titan sold the most copies. But of course, that could also have been from, the impact of the anime. Eventually, we got a season 2, and Attack on Titan was back. Reiner and Burrito reveal is still one of my favorite directed animated sequences of all time, and seeing people's reactions to that twist is still fun. And the best part is, Wit Studios finally had a decent schedule, and probably some money from Cabaneri, that they were able to do a season 3 a year later. But while that was happening, the manga was releasing bangers after bangers. Descent, Perfect Game, The Nameless Soldiers, Promise, fucking Hero, Midnight Sun, The Basement. The twist that humanity was alive the whole time and that Eren was a subject of Ymir was brilliant. Then the story would shift perspectives with a time skip, and Reiner would become the main character for the Marley arc. And just like the Uprising arc, it split the fan base. Okay, maybe not as bad as before, but people were itching for more Eren, and when he finally showed up in chapter 100, we got probably one of the best chapters in the manga. And what a milestone chapter that was. Of course, MAPPA took over the animation from Wit Studios. The main reason that I saw is that Wit Studios wasn't getting paid enough and they were being overworked, and MAPPA is a slut, so they just took it, regardless on, the health of their animators. There was also some more controversy as they started to animate the Titans with CG. Personally, I didn't really care, but at the time, for me, I was getting tired of Attack on Titan. I spent 10 years of my life reading this manga, and I was kind of burnt out. Don't get me wrong, the manga was still good, but to me, it just felt like a routine and obligation. And there's also this thing called life. Going to school, meeting people, dating, being traumatized, finding a job, trying not to be homeless. And that mindset might have soured the final arc for me a bit. But of course, the ending not being satisfactory is an opinion shared by a good amount of people, to the point that they create their own ending. For me personally, I found the actual ending to be pretty average. I mean, obviously it wasn't going to end with Eren committing genocide. Oh wait, he did. To be honest, I might have gone swept up by the bandwagon. After all, I didn't really reread this manga. I just wanted it to end so that I could check it off as completed and be free to move on with my life. You know, sometimes you just want to go back to your childhood days of wanting to see people die. But alas, I had to develop empathy and compassion for others. So this time I took the opportunity to reread Attack on Titan with this ending in mind. So here are some interesting moments during that reread. Armin was a weak coward in the beginning and ends up standing up to Eren in the end and being his equal. Mikasa pretty much loved Eren when he saved her life and told her to fight. And she constantly reminds us that the world is cruel but beautiful. Those two traits pretty much stick with those two characters. In chapter 11, Eren relies on Armin to figure situations out. The dialogue in this chapter is pretty interesting if you use it to contextualize the ending. Chapter 12, Pixie's comments on the Code Geass ending. Eren thinks it's stupid. He pretty much ends up doing it anyways, kind of. There is also the recon plan to kill a majority of the population to keep the rest alive. Probably some inspiration that Eren had for the rumbling. Chapter 13, Pixie says he's okay with being branded a mass murderer so long as he wins. And now I'm starting to make sense that Isayama probably did have an ending in mind, just in case his manga got canceled early. Chapter 16, Eren sees Mikasa as an annoying babysitter, so I wonder when he sees her as more than just family. Chapter 17, of course, we have Reiner and Eren's bad guy conversation. Still great foreshadowing, but here Eren reinforces that he is still immature, and Reiner teaches him the pain and responsibilities of being a soldier, which I know it's pretty early in the story, but I think Eren took that to heart. Chapter 19, Eren has the reputation of being a savior or a monster. Chapter 25, Eren's first test in his philosophy of just moving forward and whether he should trust in others or himself. Well, he got Levi's squad killed by relying on others, so I guess he wanted to rely on his own power in the end. Chapter 26, Eren is a potential threat to humanity. Isayama was really cooking. Also, all these scouts giving up their lives really made Eren a bit callous on the life of a human. Chapter 27, Armin talks about making tough choices and says his favorite phrase, "Those who can't throw away their humanity can't hope to achieve anything." The major moral dilemma in this manga and the appetizer to the rumbling. Chapter 34, Armin makes a rumbling joke. Chapter 36 has nothing to do with the ending. I just wanted to appreciate how amazing Sasha is, and I'm grateful that Kawakubo saved her life. Chapter 45, Mikasa and Armin comment that Eren is a lone wolf, while Mikasa just wants to be with him. It's kind of cool how this chapter lays out the ending, as that's pretty much what happens. Chapter 59, Levi tells Armin that lives were saved because he dirtied his hands. Chapter 63, Zackley's shit machine, that is all. Chapter 65, Eren regrets his existence and starts to doubt that he has a higher purpose in life. He's nothing special, so how does he end up causing the rumbling? Chapter 66, more Marley foreshadowing. Seriously, this is just really clever. Along with that, Levi once again pressures Eren to make a choice. I guess he also chose genocide in the end. It definitely feels like Levi was supposed to die when he got blown up, because right now it seems out of character for him to try to stop Eren. Chapter 69, Kenny's "everybody is a slave to something" speech, which can be applied to Eren being a slave to freedom. Chapter 70, Eren and Historia's relationship is interesting, but I don't think it's romantic. More like siblings, you know? I mean, technically with Frida inside Eren, that would make him Historia's older sister. Well, weebs do like incest, so I guess that explains why this ship was popular. Chapter 71, Eren is special because he was born into this world. Now he has a new mindset thanks to his mother's words. Chapter 73, Eren's addiction to freedom came from Armin's curiosity of life outside of the walls. Chapter 75, Reiner surviving because he transferred his consciousness is still bullshit. Chapter 76, Erwin stands on the sacrifices of others to achieve his goal of the truth. Chapter 80, thematically, Attack on Titan is all about sacrificing everything for a small step. I guess Eren took that idea to the logical extreme. So was there even any meaning in the genocide? If you had to justify it, what could even be said? Chapter 84, Eren declares that Armin will save humanity. Also, Mikasa learns to let go and accept Armin's death. Chapter 87, I feel like Gross's speech is a commentary on me.
I like seeing people die.
And many readers that liked Attack on Titan for the violence and nothing more. And maybe to think that Eren, at the end, after all the trauma he went through, probably just liked seeing people die and went through all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify the killings, sort of how the fans did for his behalf. Chapter 88, title drop. Also, the manga is on the idea that curiosity is the path to freedom, and the right for freedom is paved with blood. Historically, That would be accurate, but it becomes a cycle with the free becoming the oppressors, so is true freedom for all even attainable? Chapter 89, the theory that love can end cycles of hate starts here, which kind of sounds cheesy, but it makes sense in my personal experience. A lot of my prior hate seems to stem from loneliness and feeling unloved. Chapter 90, Flock tells Eren he is stubborn in his ways, and Mikasa ultimately acted as an adult to let go, and I guess take responsibility. In this context, they're talking about Armin dying, but you can apply that with Mikasa's love for Eren while he's alive. Eren ultimately finds out about his master plan of the rumbling and becomes a slave to fate. If we kill all our enemies, will we finally be free? A very powerful quote to think about, because pragmatically, it should be true. But people are complex, and if you kill one enemy, another will just be born. It's that cycle of hatred, Naruto style. Chapter 91, Bird, and Gabby is the girl Eren from the one-shot. Chapter 95, Reiner wants to be a hero for his mother's selfish desires, and to also give his miserable life meaning. But it turns out he was also nothing special, just like Eren. Chapter 97, Reiner tells Eren to just keep moving forward, even if it seems impossible. Chapter 100, was there a possibility for Eren to not go through with this plan? Probably not, but I think it was kind of nice for him to talk to Reiner about their shared struggles. Chapter 105, my wife. Also, despite the sacrifices on his behalf, Eren is still moving forward, but he doesn't have to like it. Chapter 106, Armin believes that peace can be achieved. Eren does too, but not in the short term. They need time, and in order to buy time, Eren has to fight and initiate the rumbling. With Tybar declaring war on parodies, this is now the only path forward for him. Chapter 108, Historia gets pregnant, causing a whole conspiracy theory of shippers to think Eren is the father. I mean, to be honest, it was a storyline I considered, especially since Mikasa is kind of boring. But yeah, this is definitely a weakness in the overall story. The pregnancy ultimately was for survival and not out of love, or at least that's what I thought. Back to the idea of relying on your friends or your own abilities theme, Eren loves his friends and relied on them to attack Marley, but Sasha died in the process. So I think this was when he decided to never put his friends in harm's way again. I guess since he can also see the future, he knew they would probably be fine too. But it just goes to show, every time Eren relies on others, they just fucking die. So I'm just gonna do it myself and get myself killed. Oh wow, I guess that's where it goes. Again, it makes sense, I guess. Chapter 110, Eren becomes a poster child for e-boys on Discord. Chapter 111, Sasha's father pretty much tells us the only way to end the cycle of violence is to forgive and to make sure that the children are taught to love, not to hate. If only he was a father to Eren too. Chapter 112, Eren affirms that he is free and has free will. You know what they say, anyone that says they are free is not free. Eren wants his friends to hate him so that he doesn't drag them into this mess. It's also important to note that characters start lying, so you can't take every dialogue spoken in face value. At this point, Eren is the villain and the antagonist. He turned heel after the time skip, and we don't actually get his POV until later, but we get everyone else's perspective on him. Chapter 114, Zeke never felt real love as a child, and so he betrayed his parents. Another mention of love. I mean, at this point, the moral is to love your children and not teach them hate. Chapter 118, Mikasa leaves her scarf and tries to give up on Eren. Chapter 119, beautiful chapter, probably a top 10 honestly. Chapter 122, Ymir's backstory and she's the ultimate slave, and she was forced to love someone that tried to execute her. Chapter 123, Mikasa sister zones herself. Eren reveals his true motivations and he is committed to the rumbling. He'll sacrifice all of humanity if he will keep his precious friends alive. Still, sometimes I feel like he just enjoys killing and uses his desire of freedom as an excuse. That's obviously not true, but somewhere deep down in the subtext, he must like the violence. Chapter 126, you know what? Connie is the only one who can say that line unironically. He's pretty much the average Joe, the moral center. I like Connie. He's a good guy. Chapter 127, if only people from different sides properly communicated, then no one would have needed to die. I mean, let's be honest, people are stupid. And the only time talk no jutsu works is when you beat the shit out of your opponent first. Sometimes violence is necessary. Chapter 129, Keith Shadis became a hero. and yet no one will ever know. Truly a bystander moment, still very sad. Chapter 131. Eren will keep moving forward, despite his regrets. He cannot change fate and has become a slave to freedom, like a meth head. Literally, his head is in the clouds. Chapter 137. The meaning of life are the little things that give you enjoyment. Those happy moments are a great reason why you deserve to be born. So thinking about it in that perspective, what little moments did Eren do that made him happy besides fighting? Armin was happy by learning, and Mikasa was happy just being near Eren. Yeah, Mikasa definitely needed another hobby, honestly. Chapter 138. Eren thinks Mikasa is a slave to her own feelings for him, so Eren tried to free her by rejecting her and hating her. Mikasa, through her own free will, decided to love Eren, even if it meant killing him. The love that was inherited from Ymir, I guess, who was a slave to it. Mikasa and Eren's relationship is very subtle, maybe too subtle. It's obvious on Mikasa's end, but Eren will always protect Mikasa, both physically and emotionally. It was always instinctual. He just never knew his own feelings or how to properly convey them because he's traumatized and doesn't think he deserves to be loved since he has to rumble. Chapter 139. Eren is a free bird. This part is super memed, but I'm not bothered by it anyway, since reincarnation is a cool thing, right? But then again, Eren being a cuck is kind of funny. I get why people would be mad though, but Eren's entire issue, and I guess the entire point of the story, is that Eren cannot properly communicate, which is why Armin punched the shit out of him first before he got his Talk No Jutsu confession. Sometimes violence is necessary. This final chapter, though, really suffers because it's obvious from the first 8 chapters that this is the actual ending Isayama wanted. The problem is that he wrote a very compelling story of a traumatized boy's downfall. Eren is a psychopath. He did this because he wanted to. Nothing would change because he was born to fight. He didn't want to live his life as cattle, but he is also the good guy? No, I'm sorry, but Eren cannot be the hero at the end of this story. He doesn't deserve it. Look, I read this chapter plenty of times. I still don't really know what the answer is to the question of how to stop hate, because the whole manga throws out plenty of theories, but they also kind of contradict each other. Eren and Mikasa do succeed in ending the Titan curse and freeing Ymir, but as Armin said, did he really need to go that far? Maybe there really isn't an answer. And in our own history and current lives, hate still exists. Paradise gets bombed because they want a revenge, or because of like other resource reasons. But you know what? I've decided to just settle on the idea that life is complicated and very traumatic. But the journey is always filled with small joys that we can become slaves to. Maybe be with others. There's no perfect answer, nor is there a perfect ending. But at the very least, this 14-year-old journey was a nice distraction. And I'm happy that it was a part of my life. And I look forward to the anime. I hope it gives me closure. I might not like the ending, but you know what? I do want to see it end in the proper way. Also, we need to give birth to a lot of kids and save Japan. Our lives matter because we were born into this world. It's a world that Shinzo Abe would have wanted. Anyways, make sure you have a lot of sex, okay? Have a good day. Bye!
100円ください。